بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم قال الله تعالى في كتابه المجيد وفرقانه الحميد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وقال الذي اشتراه من مصر لامرأته أكرمي مثواه عسى أن ينفعنا أو نتخذه ولدا وكذلك مكنا ليوسف في الأرض ولنعلمه من تأويل الأحاديث والله غالب على أمره ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون صدق الله العظيم. So we continue with this amazing, fascinating, intriguing, riveting story of Yusuf alayhi salatu wassalam. Just to recap the problems that he's already suffered and the tribulations that he's already gone through. In the beginning, he has the dream, he conveys it to the father Yaqub alayhi salatu wassalam. The dad tells him to hide it, conceal it, and don't expose it. Meanwhile, the brothers are busy plotting with the false assumption and presumption that their dad is favoring Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam more than them. They plot to kill him or drop him in the well. They convince the father on the fact that they're strong, they're an usbah, they're a group, and the dad permits. They take Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam while he believes it is a recreational trip. But lo and behold, it ends up with sinister motives and an exterior objection and a negative plan, and they drop him in the well. The eldest brother Yehuda is coming every so often to check on his little brother Yusuf to see, is he alive, is he still there, has he left, has he departed. He comes that day, and the caravan which had strayed on their way from Sham to Misr has gone off their path and ended up at this well. They send their water scout ahead. He drops in his bucket, and lo and behold, the innocent Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam comes out. He goes back to the caravan, and the eldest brother with his band, they then come for the second time and claim that this is our slave. He has eloped, he has run away. And they have a transaction, they barter, they trade, and at the end they sell him for mere pennies, 20 odd or so dirhams. وَكَانُوا فِيهِ مِنَ الزَّاهِدِينَ. They had no interest towards him, they had no relation towards him, no connection. They wanted him to depart. As the English saying goes, the problems never change, the problems never go away, they just change. The problems never go away, they just change. The string of beads is always there. The colors are just different. They come one after the other. The Quran, in this whole sequence, now that he's with the travelers, he's with the caravan, he's with the merchants, and we can understand what his feelings and what his thoughts and what he's going through. Even us as mature, seasoned, adult travelers, frequent flyers, globetrotters, if we get caught up in a group where it's all strangers, we begin to feel uncomfortable, we begin to feel uneasy, we don't know anyone, now we're traveling with them. And this is Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, just a young boy. The Quran, from the moment he gets and he is sold to the travelers, up to the time they reach Egypt, it's ambiguous, it's left. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not mention it. The historical narrations, they have other suggestions, how long they traveled, where they came from, what path they took, to the extent that they come into Egypt, and now Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam is being sold and auctioned in the marketplace, and this person is bidding this much, and this person is bidding that much. But the Quran is silent. The Quran is quiet. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala left it vague because there is nothing connected in guidance in man to that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes straight, direct, from the travelers. Now he's already been purchased in Egypt. وَقَالَ الَّذِي اشْتَرَاهُ مِن مِصْرٍ. وَقَال, and he said, الَّذِي, the one, اشْتَرَاهُ, who purchased him, who bought him, مِن مِصْرٍ, from Egypt. He says, لِمْرَأَتِهِ, to his wife, أَكْرِمِي مَثْوَاهُ, give this young lad a good, noble upbringing. Make his abode beautiful. Give him a good place. Give him a good home. Give him a noble upbringing. Give him a أَكْرِمِي مَثْوَاهُ. Take care of him. عَسَىٰ أَن يَنْفَعَنَا, perchance he can benefit us, أَوْ نَتَّخِذَهُ وَلَدًا, or we can take him as a child. Now, some context to the story. The person who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring to, الَّذِي اشْتَرَاهُ مِن مِصْرٍ, he was what you could say the governor, the head minister of Egypt. And his name, with the difference of اختلاف الأقوال, is either Itfir or Qitfir. His name is either Itfir or Qitfir. And he was, like I said, the governor, the head prime minister of Egypt. And he said to his wife, لِمْرَأَتِهِ, his wife, generally مشهور على ألسنة الناس, the common assumption is that her name was Zulaykha. This is what majority of people have assumed that her name is Zulaykha. Majority of scholars will say that Zulaykha was her kunniya, was her pet name, and her actual name was Ra'il. Her actual name was Ra'il, and Zulaykha was just a kunniya or a pet name, and some of them have it switched vice versa. They were a family that was not bestowed or blessed with children, which is why the father, or Itfir, the Aziz of Misr, he says, عَسَىٰ أَن يَنْفَعَنَا أَوْ نَتَّخِذَهُ وَلَدًا, we can take him as a child. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, he says, أَفْرَسُ النَّاسِ ثَلَاثَةً أَفْرَسُ النَّاسِ ثَلَاثَةً. Three people were the best of physiognomist or physiognomist, however you pronounce it. Some people read it with the G, some people don't. Three people were the best of physiognomists. Anybody know what a physiognomist is? This is cheating. Yeah, أفرس الناس. But Dr. Sharif speaks Arabic. I don't know why he said no. أفرس الناس ثلاثة. The people with the best farasa. They had foresight. They could see ahead. They had a present situation, the apparent, the zahir, and they judged the future based on what they could see now. So he said, visionary. Oof, I like this word. He said, أفرس الناس ثلاثة. Three people, they were visionaries. Abdullah Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, he says the first was the daughter of Shu'aib alayhi salatu wassalam. وَلَمَّا وَرَدَ مَاءَ مَدْيَنَ وَجَدَ عَلَيْهِ أُمَّةً مِّنَ النَّاسِ يَسْقُونَ. When Musa alayhi salatu wassalam comes to Madian after he has been accused of murder, even though it was inadvertent, and now the intelligence of Pharaoh is trying to locate him, and he flees and he runs away. He comes to Madian. وَلَمَّا وَرَدَ مَاءَ مَدْيَنَ وَجَدَ عَلَيْهِ أُمَّةً مِّنَ النَّاسِ يَسْقُونَ. He finds a group of people watering their animals, watering, grazing their cattle, their sheep, their animals. And ولما ورد ماء مدين وجد عليه أمة من الناس يسقون ووجد من دونهم امرأتين تذودان. He finds two young sisters, two girls, they're by the side holding and withholding their animals. قال ما خطبكما? What's the matter with you two? قالتا لا نسقي حتى يصدر الرعاء. We can't go, we're young, we're women, we can't rub shoulders with these strong men, we can't water our animals at the same time. قالتا لا نسقي حتى يصدر الرعاء وأبونا شيخ كبير, and our father, he's old and elderly in age. فسقى لهما ثم تولى إلى الظل. So Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, what he does, after the shadow of anxiety that's over his head, after he is fleeing and running away from Pharaoh, after he has a bounty on his head, and he has been traveling continuously for 8 days in a row, he sees that these people are struggling, and the prophethood in him cannot allow him to turn a blind eye. فَسَقَى لَهُمَا. So what he does, he goes and he helps them. So Dr. Sharif has just come from a 16-hour flight from Egypt, and he was sitting in business or economy. He had the usual amenities. There's AC. He was listening on his iPhone. He had his Wi-Fi in the plane. He got some food. The waitress served him some salmon and so on. And he's coming back from Egypt, but he's a little bit tired. He departs at IAD Dulles. And as he's driving, and there's a person by the side of the road, and the person by the side of the road, he's got a flat tire. And now Dr. Sharif has a conundrum. I'm so tired. I'm kind of jet lagged. Do I stop and help this guy, or do I just go home? Musa alayhi salatu wasalam says, no, I can't just go home. These people need help. I'm going to help them. فَسَقَى لَهُمَا. He helped them. ثُمَّ تَوَلَّى إِلَى الظِّلِّ فَقَالَ رَبِّ إِنِّي لِمَا أَنزَلْتَ إِلَيَّ مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَقِيرٌ فَجَاءَتْ إِحْدَاهُمَا تَمْشِي عَلَى اسْتِحْيَاءٍ. The daughter of Shu'aib alayhi salatu wasalam comes back to the father. مَا أَعْجَلَكُمَا يَا بِنْتَيَّ. Oh, my daughters, what brought you home so early? They said, there was this stranger, this foreigner. He helped us out. He watered the animals for us, and he sent us on our way. مَا أَحْسَنْتُمَا يَا بِنْتَيَّ. My daughters, he did you such a nice favor. At least you could have extended a compensation and a reward of hospitality, at least bringing him home for a meal. So the daughter comes, إِحْدَاهُمَا تَمْشِي عَلَى اسْتِحْيَاءٍ, and she tells Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, come, my father is calling you for dinner. And Musa alayhi salatu wasalam says, okay. And in that walk, he displays such humility, such piety, such innocence, such shame and modesty. He says, don't walk in front, walk from behind, and indicate the path from behind. He comes to Shu'aib alayhi salatu wasalam. قَصَّ عَلَيْهِ الْقَصَص. He narrates his story. قَالَ لَا تَخَفْ نَجَوْتَ مِنَ الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ. Shu'aib alayhi salatu wasalam tells him, don't fear, you have been saved from the wrongdoers. Then what does the daughter say? قالت إحداهما يا أبت استأجر إن خير من استأجرت القوي الأمين. Dad, you know what? I think you're going to want to hire this guy. I think you need to put this guy in employment. يا أبت استأجر إن خير من استأجرت القوي الأمين. Verily, the best of the people you could hire is one who's strong and one who's honest. Why? Because if he's strong but he's not honest, he's going to make you a lot of money. He's going to do the work, but he's also taking some profit for himself. And if he's ameen but not qawi, so you have full satisfaction, he's not stealing from you, but at the same time he can't do any work. She says, qawiyul ameen. She judged his quwwah from the fact that he could lift the lid. And she judged his truthfulness from the humility, modesty, fertility, bashfulness that he displayed on this walk. And how profitable this turned out for Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, and how even more profitable it turned out for that woman. Why? Because now she found a husband. يا أبت استأجر إن خير من استأجرت القوي الأمين. This was number one. Number two, Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, he says, number two was Abu Bakr alayhi salatu wasalam, when he appointed Umar ibn al-Khattab to follow him as the successor radiallahu anhu. The people came to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. They said, Ya Abu Bakr, Umar radiallahu anhu, he's harsh, he's severe, shadidan fi dhatillah. And he is severe while you and the Prophet ﷺ were still alive. Imagine how severe he's going to be after your demise. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he says, the power and the reign and the authority of Khilafah will soften the severity of Umar radiallahu anhu. فَإِن بَدَّلَ وَغَيَّرَ فَالْخَيْرَ أَرَدْ. If things go sideways and it changes and he isn't as I expected, فَالْخَيْرَ أَرَدْ. I intended nothing but good. And look at how the books of history record the Khilaf of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. He didn't match the expectations of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. He far surpassed them and superseded them. This was number two. Number three, Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu says, was this man when he said to his wife, عَسَىٰ أَن يَنْفَعَنَا أَوْ نَتَّخِذَهُ وَلَدًا. Give him a good home. He might benefit us. عَسَىٰ أَن يَنْفَعَنَا. This was some foresight. He didn't have any prophethood. He didn't have any signs. He could just tell there was something in him. He could see the vision. أَكْرِمِي مَثْوَى. Give him a good home. عَسَىٰ أَن يَنْفَعَنَا أَوْ نَتَّخِذَهُ وَلَدًا. Perchance he can benefit us. Perchance he can give us some, or we can take him as a child. Now I am remembering the story of Halima Sa'adiyya radiallahu anha. What's the key point? عَسَىٰ أَن يَنْفَعَنَا. I'm remembering the story of Halima Sa'adiyya radiallahu anha. She came with the expectation of taking a child to nurse. All of the children had been taken except for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And she was debating with her husband, and they were discussing and conversing. And then she decided, you know what, I'll just take the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She goes. As soon as she picks up this precious cargo, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the udders of her ride begin to overflow with milk. On the way there, her ride was slow, lethargic, lackadaisical, lazy. On the way back, swift, energetic, fast, and moving with the speed of a young horse. Her husband says, where is this coming from? من أين أتيت هذه البركة? Where is all this barakah coming from? And then they look at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. إن البركات من مولود الجديد. Oh, I think all of this barakah is coming from the blessing of this new child. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Halima Sa'adiyya before was just a normal woman. She was just a normal nurse. The books of history would never have remembered her. But the hadith comes that day. A woman walks into the masjid. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, إِنَّهَا لَأُمِّي فَبَسَطَ رِدَاءَهُ. He takes off his shawl, he spreads it on the ground. He ushers her in, please, please sit. And the companions radiallahu anhum are looking. But the Prophet ﷺ's mother has deceased and passed away. But they would never dare utter a saying ta'zeeman lahu. They wouldn't ever question the Prophet ﷺ. When the Prophet ﷺ and this woman leaves, he says, innaha Halima Sa'adiyya radiyallahu anha. This was the woman who nursed me. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on her. There were three people or three women who nursed the Prophet ﷺ, just for our own general history. Number one, for very brief, the first person to nurse the Prophet ﷺ was his own mother. Amina was the first person to nurse the Prophet ﷺ. Then the second person was Thuwayba. Thuwayba was the second person to nurse the Prophet ﷺ. She was the slave of Abu Lahab. Abdul Uzza was Thuwayba. She nursed him very briefly. And then the woman who did the majority of her nursing was Halima Sa'adiyya from Banu Sa'ad tribe, radiallahu anha. She nursed him for the whole duration of the normal time of lactation. عسى أن ينفعنا, this was the benefit that came. أو نتخذه ولدا, or perchance we can take him as a child. وكذلك مكنا ليوسف, مكن يمكن تمكين, وكذلك مكنا ليوسف. And like this, we put Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam in power. We gave him strength. We positioned him. The Mufassirun write that this was just the prophecy for what is to come. Because later in the surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says it again. وَكَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا لِيُوسُفَ فِي الْأَرْضِ يَتَبَوَّأُ مِنْهَا حَيْثُ يَشَاءُ. And now when the dream and everything has come into fruition, then Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, now he owns over the entire lands of Misr and he can go as he pleases. This was the beginning. وَكَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا, we positioned him, we just gave him power. Why? Because now he's in the house of political power. He's in the house of an aziz. He's in the house of a minister. He's coming from wealth. He's coming from power. He's coming from influence. He's getting acclimated with the different political terms. He's getting the education that he needs. He's getting the knowledge that he needs. Makkanna. Now we begin to position him. This is a little, you could say, questionnaire. Before we had also discussed this word, makkanu tamkeen. Does anybody know where we had discussed this word previously? You don't have to give me the exact verse, but if you can give me just not this fellow over here. Anybody else for him? Yeah, Yusuf. In Surah Al-Kahf. Do you remember who? Dhul Qarnayn. Dhul Qarnayn, after he built the wall, he said he used these same words, makkinu tamkeen, to put in power, put in position. You will find it very amazing and interesting that from an outward perspective, the people who generally or outwardly, apparently, put Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam in this position is who? It's his brothers. Because if his brothers didn't drop him in the well, he would never have been picked up and he would never be climbing the political stage of Misr and Egypt. In reality, sometimes those same things that have exterior, ulterior, negative, sinister, evil motives, they end up being our biggest, best benefactors. They give us the most benefit. So the ulama write, who was the biggest benefactor to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam? It was Fir'aun. It was Fir'aun. Because the minister came. He says, oh, yuladu mawludan, yadhabu mulkuka ala yadihi. Oh, a child is going to be born. He's going to, and your power, your kingdom is going to be taken at his hands. So what does Fir'aun do? He kills all the male boys and he leaves the female. Ya bani Israel adhkuru ni'mati allati. Remember the favor of your Lord. إذ أنجاكم من آل فرعون يسومونكم سوء العذاب يذبحون أبناءكم ويستحيون نساءكم. But Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, because of this, his mother puts him in the basket. She drops him in the Nile River. He flows to the castle. The lady of the castle picks him up. And what does she say? لا تقتلوه عسى أن ينفعنا أو نتخذه ولدا وهم لا يشعرون. Oh, we could benefit from this child and we could take him as our own son. She says the exact same words. So the one who benefited him the most was the same one who was plotting to kill him. The ones who benefited Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam the most, the same ones who were plotting to kill him. وَكَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا لِيُوسُفَ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلِنُعَلِّمَهُ مِنْ تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ. And we taught him from the interpretation of dreams. But this is just one tafsir. The ulama also write, from ta'wil al-ahadith, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired and educated Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam with the ability to see things with the deeper eye, with the ability to make the correct judgments, with the ability to stabilize the country, with the ability to rule with power, with rule with wisdom, rule with hikmah, judge with mercy, and all of these different qualities of a good leader. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired it in him min ta'wil al-ahadith. The interpretation of dreams is just one factor from the many sub-factors that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge that He bestowed upon him to stabilize, be a good ruler, be a good king. Wallahu ghalibun ala amrihi. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the overwhelming matter on His affair. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. However, majority of the people do not know. And surely one of the best blessings to have is a ruler who is just, a ruler who is good. The Prophet ﷺ said, a time is coming, the rulers will just be Luka' ibn Luka', a wicked person, the son of another wicked person. وَكَذَلِكَ نُوَلِّي بَعْدَ الظَّالِمِينَ بَعْضًا بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. This is surely the time that we live in. Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, he's on his deathbed, and the people come to him in the Ta'ifa, in the groups, and they say, Ya Umar, tell us, what is the qualities of the leader? مَا هُوَ الصِّفَاتِ الَّذِي تَبْحَثَ عَنْهَا. What are the qualities you're looking for in a leader? He says, a leader is a person who is strong yet not severe, He is strong yet not severe. He's soft yet not weak. He gives yet he's not extravagant. And he withholds yet he's not miser. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam with the ability of these rulers. Wallahu ghalibun ala amrihi walakin akthara an-nas la ya'lamun. In another ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna Allah balighun amrah. Or you might read it, Inna Allah balighu amrih. Verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who is ever reaching to his matter, decree, and decision. And this is in the plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us and tawfiq. Wa akhir da'wa alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Allahumma hadina fi man hadayt, wa afina fi man afayt, wa tawallana fi man tawallayt, wa barik lana fi ma a'tayt, wa qina wasrif 'anna sharra ma qadayt, fa innaka taqdi wa la yuqda 'alayk, innahu la ya'izzu man 'adayt, wa la yadhillu man walayt, tabarakta rabbana wa ta'alayt, nastaghfiruka rabbana wa natubu ilayk. Allahumma hdina wahdi bina wahdi an-nas jami'a, واجعلنا سببا لمن اهتدى. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. اللهم أحسن ختامنا وتوفنا على كلمة لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه، وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم قنا عذابك يوم تبعث عبادك. اللهم أجرنا من النار. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من عذاب القبر وعذاب الحشر وعذاب الدين، واحشرنا يوم القيامة مع الأبرار. آمين يا رب العالمين. سبحان الله.